The Golden State Warriors keep the great news rolling in as they are 6-1, getting a win over the Washington Wizards last night. Steph Curry returned, and vibes are very high in Golden State, but the competition is about to ramp up. Golden State is about to be tested on the last half of this road trip, and we're going to talk about that on today's show. But before we do, guys, clap it up for your Golden State Warriors. Let's go. Could anybody else have envisioned a better start to the NBA season? Barring the Steph Curry injury, things have been phenomenal. And hey, we've seen guys step up in Stephen Curry's absence. So if you're happy the Golden State Warriors are 6-1, give me a like on today's video. Hit that thumbs up icon. Let's try to get 1,000 likes on today's video. Wouldn't that be crazy? It would tell me that Dub Nation is fired up about the start of the NBA season for Golden State. What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Tyler Smith, and today we're going to talk about just kind of a check-in of the Golden State Warriors. How are vibes in Golden State right now? And I think vibes are pretty high. Things are beginning to take shape for the Golden State Warriors after a 125-112, kind of a friendly tune-up type of victory against the Washington Wizards last night. Golden State's schedule is actually going to enter, in my opinion, its toughest stretch of the season. But the Warriors have looked like they've stepped up to the challenge so far this year after losing Klay Thompson and question marks surrounding whether or not this Warriors team would be able to remain in contention, remain a competitive group in the tough Western Conference in the NBA. They have shattered all doubters through 6 games so far this year. 3rd in the NBA in total points per game. The Warriors are putting up buckets game in and game out. Does not matter the opponent. Rebounds per game. They are controlling possessions. They are getting more possessions. And that's honestly an indicator of the Warriors just getting a ton of shots up. Is their rebounding margins are fantastic. They're 1st in the league in boards per game. 3rd in the league in assists, so they're getting efficient shots as well. Guys are setting each other up for easy looks, whether it be on the perimeter or at the rim. Steals per game, they're 4th in the NBA. So playing defense, creating turnovers at a very high rate. Blocks per game, they're honestly one of the better rim protecting teams so far this season. And it's not for a surplus of size. Golden State is incredibly small, but they're playing bigger, and they're 3rd in the league in blocks per game. 3-pointers made. These are the numbers that I'm really trying to focus on today's show. 3-pointers made, 3-point attempts, and the 3-point percentage for Golden State. 2nd in the league in threes made. 4th in the league in 3-pointers attempted, which honestly is fantastic because 4th in the league in 3-point percentage. For a team shooting at the volume that Golden State is right now, to be shooting it at that efficiency is absolutely fantastic. And they're playing into what Steve Kerr has been preaching back to this summer, right? The NBA has become a math game, and the Golden State Warriors are trying to adjust to that math game, right? We saw what the Boston Celtics did last year, getting up an insane high volume of 3-point attempts. Well, Steve Kerr said that's what the Warriors have to do to remain competitive. If they're not going to have, a secondary go-to scorer, somebody who can just rely on to get buckets, possession after possession after possession when things are tough for the guys around the margins. Golden State just says, we're going to surround Stephen Curry, who's already the greatest 3-point shooter of all time, with a plethora of other floor spacers so he can just get up threes at a volume that other teams just can't. Think about the Pelicans game. Pelicans just didn't have the 3-point threats that Golden State had on the outside, and they just shot themselves into a big enough lead where the Pelicans really couldn't compete anymore. Even think about a guy like Draymond Green. He isn't shooting a crazy high volume, but he is taking efficient shots. When the opportunity's there for him, defenses haven't really respected Draymond Green from the perimeter in recent years. He's making them pay so far this year. 10-19 from 3-point range. Clap it up for Draymond, but honestly, the main X factor for the Warriors' 3-point success so far, this man right here, Buddy Hield. Guy's looking like an MVP candidate early on this year. Listen, he's not going to affect the game in the athleticism department. He's not going to change things on defense. I'm going to stick him on your best player. For what the Warriors need, especially in Stephen Curry's absence the past couple of games, Buddy Hield looks like the most valuable player on the Golden State Warriors. 22 points a night, 50% from 3-point range, and it's not like the guy's shooting 4 a game. He's getting up 8, 9, 10, 11 threes per game in some instances. Buddy Hield has been incredibly efficient, fits this offense like a glove, and I couldn't have asked for a better value free agent addition for the Golden State Warriors this season. 3 years for Buddy Hield. He's going to see in Golden State $9 million a year. I don't think you're going to see that type of production from any player getting paid less than $10 million across the league this year. Massive role for Buddy Hield, and he's honestly welcoming the challenge. He hasn't been this type of relied upon scorer since his days back in Sacramento, early days in New Orleans. Those teams were bad. Now Buddy Hield is making winning plays for Golden State. He's helped spark a very, very productive bench for Golden State, and that bench has had to be dove into very early on with Stephen Curry going out, with DeAnthony Melton going out, with Andrew Wiggins going out. Guys have had to step up. Lindy Waters, an unlikely hero in one of those Pelicans games. He's been, giving it on both ends of the floor. The bench has scored 50-plus points in 6 out of the 7 games that Golden State has played so far this year. If you're getting that type of production from the guys on the bench, that just goes to show how deep of a team that Golden State has. And it's honestly a huge benefit for a lot of teams who have tried to, front load their teams, pack them with superstars, and, aren't really as deep on the back end. Golden State, for those minutes in the middle of these games early on in the season where, teams are trying to figure out who they are and who their rotations are going to be for down the line in the postseason, Golden State has so many options that they can go to and so many options they can go to situationally that it makes them a real threat for any matchup that they'll have in this league. But for Buddy Hield's sake, he's putting up so many great numbers right now that he might deserve a starting spot. So let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Should Buddy Hield start or not for Golden State? Let me know down in the comment section by typing Y for yes, type N for no. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So let me know down in the comment section when that ad break plays. Type Y for yes, type N for no on whether or not Buddy Hield should start or not. We'll get to more about the Warriors' start to their season and what Stephen Curry has done in his return and what the Warriors' upcoming schedule looks like. But first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform with over 10 million active members. And you can get started with $50 in your account by just making a $5 entry when you use our promo code CLNS. How do you make an entry on Prize Picks? All you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and just pick more or less than those stat projections. It's daily fantasy made easy. Quick withdrawals, and there's so many different categories that you guys can play on Prize Picks. They have basketball season-long projections. With it being election day today, no NBA games on the schedule, so I thought I'd bring it back to what I had preseason in the NBA. Stephen Curry, more than 26.5 points per game on the season. Zachary Zache, less than 10.3 points per game. The #1 pick. Rookies aren't doing so hot in this basketball season so far, so I went less on that. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the man in OKC, give me more than 30.5 points per game on the season. You can take my picks. You can fade my picks. Just make sure you go and do it at Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use that promo code CLNS for $50 for free when you place a $5 entry. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. Prize Picks. Run your game. So Steve Kerr went with a different starting 5 against the Washington Wizards. It didn't feature Buddy Hield, and through the first 7 games of the season, Steve Kerr has kind of been employing different starting lineups based on the situations that he's been presented with. When a guy like Andrew Wiggins goes out and Stephen Curry goes out, he kind of takes Jonathan Kuminga out of the starting lineup and moves him to the bench where he's actually been more effective. Against the Washington Wizards, he inserted Gary Payton II into the lineup to complement the return of this man right here, Stephen Curry. On a minutes restriction, did return and play 24 minutes. Staggered his minutes a little bit. Played the first 6 minutes of the first quarter, last 6 minutes of the second quarter, and then so on and so forth there in the third and fourth quarter. So Steph saw a little bit of action, kind of just ramping him back up before he's going to have to play more minutes against the Boston Celtics. And in those 24 minutes, he put up 24 points, 6 assists. Pretty efficient from the field. Nice 4 for 9 from three-point range. Good to see that Stephen Curry's jump shot, which wasn't as great as we're accustomed to early in the first couple of games of the year, is back and fine after coming back from that ankle injury. And you can just see the difference with Steph on the floor. This offense moves so much more freely. When defenses can collapse on a guy like Steph, and he's accustomed to seeing double teams and different defensive actions thrown at him, the rest of the team, you find a guy like Jonathan Kuminga cutting in from the dunker spot, like he's going to be wide open for a bunch of alley-oops. Buddy Hield's going to be wide open for threes, which he's knocking down at a 50% clip. Like, this team is unguardable in a sense like that. So when the Warriors have so many threats to score, when Stephen Curry has the ball in his hands, it is so beautiful to see him just flourish in this offense. And he knows that in these situations, he's going to have to be available for this team because when he's off the floor, the offense looks completely different. I don't think the way that this Golden State team played for the first couple of games without him is sustainable for long stretches. So Stephen Curry, he's going to have to be available, and he understands that. Here's what he had to say about how he is responding from his ankle injury. He said, "I've been through plenty of those episodes and know whether it's something I can play through or not. I made a misjudgment on that one because it was right away. Adrenaline got the best of me, but thankfully it was only a little over a week's absence." He said, "I feel good. It's just still early in the year, and you're trying to build up the endurance. My ankle feels fine. You just don't want to get in a position where you feel fatigued and put yourself in jeopardy." So good to know that Stephen Curry is buying into this Golden State Warriors team. He wants to be out there just as much as everybody else and thinks that this Golden State Warriors team can contend for a title. Well, we're going to find out whether or not the Golden State is a real contender or they're a pretender at 6-1 against Boston. Anthony Slater here says, according to Steve Kerr, assuming he feels good, I don't anticipate a big minutes restriction in Boston on Wednesday. And that's what we're going to talk about here on the rest of today's show. The Warriors have a big test ahead. They're facing the defending champs tomorrow, and they're facing a couple of teams who could be contending for a championship come the spring. So what do the Warriors' next 5 games look like? It's a gauntlet. I think it's the toughest stretch of the season for Golden State. At the Celtics tomorrow on Wednesday. 2 days later, at the Cavs, who have had as good of a start to the season as anybody else in this league. At the Thunder, who look to be at the top of the Western Conference. They've had even a better start than anybody else has had so far this year. I don't think they've lost a game by less than, or I don't think they've won a game by less than 10 points. The Mavs, we all know what's coming on that game. First game of the NBA Cup, by the way, and then the second game of the NBA Cup being against the Grizzlies. So really tough 3-game road stretch there, and you're also not really coming home to much of a cupcake matchup either against 2 of the Western Conference's best. Can we get a little revenge against the Boston Celtics? After what they did to you last year, they put you down. They absolutely took you to the woodshed. 52, they beat you by. That was when I think the rest of the NBA knew that this was the Boston Celtics year, and I don't think anybody was coming particularly close. But can we get a little revenge for that 52-point drubbing? I think Stephen Curry playing in this game is going to have to come and honestly take over. In the previous 3 games before that 52-point blowout, Stephen Curry had put up very, very good numbers against the Boston Celtics in the previous 3 matchups. We know how he played in the NBA Finals 2 years ago. 32, 33, 29 points. I think it's going to have to be something more like 33 to 35 if the Warriors want to come away with a win. Buddy Hield's going to have to produce. The Warriors as a whole are going to have to shoot great from the outside. Because Boston Celtics, they're honestly taking their formula and just putting themselves to the next level. They're taking 53s per game. They're hitting them at a 37% clip. They lead the league in three-pointers made per game as well. And they also lead the NBA in offensive rating. They play fast. They get a ton of possessions. They get a ton of threes up. So the Warriors are going to have to combat that. This will be the real first test of Steve Kerr's math problem that he's implored to the Golden State Warriors to get a high volume of three-pointers up this year. And we're going to be live for it right here on the channel. Join us. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you have your notifications turned on because we are going to be live for this matchup against the Boston Celtics right here on the channel. Live play-by-play, stats, analysis, drinks on hand. So much fun to have. My second live stream of the year. We had a great time in the season opener, but we're coming back with a vengeance this time around against the Boston Celtics. So subscribe to the channel. We'll be live at 4:15 Pacific time. I know it's very early, but 7:15 Eastern, 6:15 Pacific, or 6:15 Central, 4:15 Pacific. We'll be live right here on the channel for Boston Celtics, Golden State Warriors. Join us. We'll see you then. Next game up in that stretch, the Cavs. Their stars have been balling out this season. The Cavaliers are, I think, still undefeated in this NBA. And with this fourth year of this core for the Cavaliers, it's put up or shut up time, and they are honestly putting up so far early in the season. Donovan Mitchell's playing at an elite level. Evan Mobley's playing at an elite level. Darius Garland is playing at an elite level. 4 different players have led the Cavs in scoring so far this year. Shout out to Dean Wade as well, who had a nice 19-point game off the bench for them that carried them to one of these wins. But the player that I think that Golden State has to watch the most, somebody who I think is taking a big jump in the efficiency category this year, Darius Garland, man. 45% from three-point range, and it's not like he's shooting 1 or 2 a game. He's getting them up from deep range. 52% from the field. He's taking very efficient shots. This is somebody that I didn't think was going to be an incredibly efficient player throughout his career. But, man, he's proven me wrong right now. 20.5 points per game, 6 assists as well. He's honestly the engine that's been driving this Cavaliers offense to the heights that it has reached so far this year. Got to watch out for Darius Garland in that Cavs matchup. And next up, the Thunder are as good as a matchup gets in the Western Conference. I mean, I think they're a runaway favorite for that first seed. They're young. They're going to be playing hungry all season long. And it's one of those matchups where, you are kind of at a disadvantage. They can play big, they can play small, they can play fast, they can play slow. And honestly, the biggest player to watch for me in this matchup, and I don't think the Warriors really have a matchup for him, is Chet Holmgren. I think there's going to be times where we see Draymond Green on Chet, and it's going to be a total mismatch. A 7'3" player who plays on the wing like a guard. I don't really think the Warriors have many matchups that can really limit him, and he's doing it on the defensive end as well. One of the best rim protectors in the league with 3 blocks a night. Chet is a matchup nightmare for Golden State. They're going to have to find different ways, different looks to throw at him just so he can be limited just a little bit. And now for the Klay Thompson return game. The game against the Mavericks that opens up the NBA Cup for Golden State. He returns to the Chase Center for his homecoming. I expect a big performance out of Clay. I think he's going to get up for this matchup, and I hope the Warriors get up for this matchup as well. I mean, you're already playing two elite offensive players in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and they added what they really needed in the offseason, which was a knockdown three-point shooter in Klay Thompson. So the past couple of games, Klay's been a little quiet relative to how he started the season, but man, he can still shoot that pill at an elite clip, 39% basically. He's got through 7 games so far this year. I'm assuming he's going to get a lot of threes up and try to make his mark in his return to the Chase Center. And then the Grizzlies to round out this 5-game stretch, which I think the Golden State Warriors are facing their toughest 5-game stretch of the season. I think the Grizzlies are going to be back in the playoffs this year. And obviously with the return of Ja Morant, like, this is a guy who Golden State has had fits with before. It's been a guy who, you know, he's had very good performances against Golden State, and it's been somebody that they've had trouble guarding. He's had a very good start to the year as well. I mean, 20 and a half and 5 rebounds, almost 10 dimes a game. He's never been a great outside shooter for the Grizzlies here, but man, somebody you're gonna have to watch as far as his athleticism goes and his floor spacing and his court vision abilities. He's just one of the most exciting young players in this league, and he's coming for a vengeance this year after missing a lot of last season's campaign. And my overall take with this stretch, you're playing some of the NBA's best teams. You're going to find out whether or not this Golden State Warriors team is for real. Who have they beaten in this stretch so far through 7 games? They've beaten the Rockets. They've beaten the Pelicans, who I think are a good team. They've beaten them twice, so maybe that's something to be said. The Wizards, the Jazz, and the Trailblazers. It's not exactly the NBA's elite that Golden State has gone out there and dominated so far. Now, they have won these games that they are supposed to be winning. Like, they're not dropping games to bad teams, and they're winning them by big margins as well. But this is where you're really going to find out who the Golden State Warriors are. You're going to find out whether or not the Golden State Warriors are going to make a big, significant trade at some point in this NBA season. Because if they fall 4 games during this stretch, they're going to be like, okay, we're not good enough for this. We can't play with the big dogs. We're fine playing the NBA's worst, but we're not good enough to beat the NBA's best. So we're going to find out a lot on this 5-game stretch. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments as far as what Golden State's record will be over those 5 games. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to not be an easy stretch by any stretch of the imagination. And honestly, I think Golden State will go under 500 on this run. I think they'll be 2-3. And honestly, I think that's successful. You come out of this trip 8-4 on the season, and you knock off 2 of the NBA's best teams because you play 5 of them. If you can get 2 of these wins, I think the Warriors can call that a relative success. Keep the other 3 games close. But hey, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong on this, and Golden State surprises me. Maybe goes 4-1, and we think about this team as a potential contender with the squad that they have in place, and no trade will need to be made. Hey, if I am wrong, you guys can hit me up about it on Twitter. Let me know what you guys think about my prediction on Twitter, @Smitty@CS. And yeah, as always, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because we're going to be live for that game against the Boston Celtics tomorrow at 4:15 Pacific. We're going to have you guys covered with the Golden State Warriors like nobody else on YouTube all season long. YouTube.com/WarriorsTV. We'll see you in the next one. Let's go Dubs.